Dune Part 2. I absolutely loved the first part. However, I think there are several issues with Part 2. Don't get me wrong, it's a good film, just not on par with the first one. It's not the same space opera as Part 1.
So, the story goes. Follow the mythic journey of Paul Atreides as he unites with Chani and the Fremen while on a path of revenge against the conspirators who destroyed his family. Facing a choice between the love of his life and the fate of the known universe, Paul endeavors to prevent a terrible future only he can foresee. Fine, it's big and exciting, but let me just come out and say my biggest problem with Part 2. It's not the space opera that Part 1 was. The first film builds the worlds really well with different themes through Hans Zimmer's score, and it's about big clear emotions. With a brutal betrayal which cuts deep. A betrayal almost on the same level as a betrayal in The Dark Knight Rises. All of this is very operatic. Big feelings, elaborate worlds, the young man's journey and honor and family being key drivers. Hans Zimmer's score felt more varied and inspired in Part 1, helping with the mythology of the planets, which is very important for a space opera. Part 2 is less space opera and more religion, politics and convoluted moral dilemmas. This is all fine on paper, but in execution, these big themes are way too rushed, especially in the third act. The entire film sets Paul up to be the hero, as well as setting up the love story between him and Chani. I didn't buy him being evil and corrupt. I don't think Paul's betrayal to Chani was well timed or believable. It felt like he made up his mind on the spot, rather than having a corrupt soul and motive. This is a key part of the twist at the end, which I think is a big problem. And I think this narrative failure is further supported by the diminished central villain. Part 1 did a great job of demonstrating how evil Harkonnen is, and how they work as a counterpoint to Paul. In Part 2, they're portrayed time and time again as significantly inferior. They make mistake after mistake and are clearly submissive in terms of their relationship to the Emperor. This would be okay if the Emperor would be a stronger and more powerful enemy. It is mentioned that he is, but it's never shown, so we never see any evidence of this. The mighty Baron is instantly beaten by the Emperor in a very quick and disappointing way. It makes no sense. It felt like we traded one villain for a worse one. Not credible and a big letdown. Yes, sure, the Harkonnen shows some evil traits occasionally, but it's not enough just murdering any subordinate who stands close to you like Darth Vader. It's lazy writing and a betrayal of the premise building in Part 1. So much of the film is about avenging the Baron, but when Paul kills him, he's already weakened by the Emperor. It's very anticlimactic. This leads nicely onto talking about the cast. It's way too stacked. Just because Denis Villeneuve can pick and choose anyone he wants doesn't mean he should. It feels like he just picked whoever is hot at the moment. For me, it was often too easy to dissociate the actors from their characters. I saw the celebrity and not the character driving the story forward. I didn't feel like this in Part 1 at all. Especially Anna Taylor-Joy. What is she doing there? I know she's supposed to be Paul's sister, but it just added to the cameo fest the film was. Same for Christopher Walken. I love him, but I don't think the Emperor character was written very well and felt very shallow. And he just did his no typical Walken thing. I felt a similar way about Austin Butler's character. He acted well and did as good as he could with the material, but he felt very undercooked. I don't think he was ever really threatening in the fight scenes. In the final one, I never doubted Paul was going to win. There's no nerve or tension. I don't know, something simple like if he had a special signature move that would have helped. I don't know, something simple like if he had a special sneaky signature move, I think that would have helped the character. However, all this being said, Javier Bardem is hilarious. Big development from the first film. So, a few final thoughts to close this review off. The second act built up too much around the south of Arrakis, but its reveal was rushed and deflated. And I think it was way too many names for the chosen one. I think especially in key moments in the film, it got a bit too distracting. But I love the sandworm rise. They were great, so well done. They put so much focus on being so difficult to get onto a sandworm. It was a big part of the film. That's how Paul's character is proving himself. And then, I don't know, 50 minutes later, half an hour later, everyone is on sandworms. They even pitch a tent on it. There are like loads of people on it. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's this big thing of him proving that he's the chosen one is a bit, I don't know, disappointing. Or not believable. Or just inflated. So, all in all, of course, Dune Part 2 is such a feat of filmmaking and top-notch craft in terms of cinematography, production design, score, makeup, everything. But for me, it was a big disappointment in all it promised in the first part. However, I'm really looking forward to Part 3, Messiah. Thank you for watching.